You're giving away kittens. Penelope Saris stopped in her tracks, staring at the cardboard sign taped to a weathered baby stroller. Yeah, the man said, brushing a lock of dark hair from his forehead as he crouched to adjust a tiny orange fluff ball trying to escape the blanket. Free to a good home. No catch, just want them safe. Penelope looked from the kittens to the man, then to the little girl clinging shyly to his leg. The girl couldn't have been older than 5, wide-eyed, curly-haired, with a smudge of chocolate on her cheek and a too big coat swallowing her frame. I'll take 2, Penelope said, crouching down as she met the girl's curious gaze. What's your name, sweetheart? Zara, the girl whispered. That's a beautiful name, Penelope said, giving her a warm smile before looking up at the man again. You the dad? The man stood, brushing dirt off his jeans. Yeah, I'm Yarden Nolan, she's my whole world. He extended a hand, rough from work, and she shook it. Penelope was in a fitted trench coat, heels, and a silk blouse that cost more than his monthly rent, but she didn't act like it. She knelt next to Zara, letting one of the kittens crawl onto her shoulder like it belonged there. You live around here? He asked. Not far, I was walking back from a meeting. That was, technically true. She just didn't mention the meeting had been in the executive boardroom on the 50th floor of Saris Tech, the company she owned. Yarden shifted uncomfortably. I don't usually do this out here, but the shelter's full and we can't keep him. My landlord's already threatening to kick us out because of noise. Penelope saw the way he kept one hand on his daughter's shoulder, protective but gentle. She also saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the quiet way he'd given up something sweet for someone else. They deserve a good place, he added, his voice low. Even if we don't have much, I won't let them suffer. Penelope stood. I can help with that, he blinked. What? I mean the kittens, she said quickly, catching herself. I've got space, a lot of it. I'll make sure they're safe. Zara looked up at her dad. Can we visit them sometimes? Yarden hesitated. We don't want to bother you. You wouldn't be, Penelope said softly. Then, tugging a business card from her bag, she handed it to him. Come by this address tomorrow. There's a sunroom I think the kittens will love. Yarden glanced at the card, frowning. This is downtown. Yeah, she smiled. I'll explain when you get there. He watched her walk away with 2 kittens curled in her arms, his daughter waving quietly beside him. The next morning, Yarden debated for a solid hour before taking the subway with Zara to the address. He nearly turned back twice. The building was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Polished marble. A doorman who raised a brow when Yarden walked in with Zara wearing a patched backpack and holding a kitten carrier. We're here to see Penelope. The doorman called upstairs. 2 minutes later, an assistant in tailored navy slacks stepped down and brought them up to the penthouse. The doors slid open and Zara gasped. It wasn't just a sunroom. It was a full greenhouse terrace with glass walls, a waterfall feature, and a heated floor. 2 kittens were already curled up on plush beds near a sunlit window. Penelope stood there barefoot, wearing jeans and a sweater, holding a tiny mug of espresso. You came, she said, smiling. Yarden stared. This is your place. Yeah, she knelt and opened her arms to Zara. Welcome. Zara ran right to her, no hesitation. Yarden, on the other hand, stood frozen. You live in a penthouse. I do. You're rich, she laughed softly. I run a company. That card I gave you, that's me. I'm the CEO, he blinked. You're joking. I'm not, she walked toward him. I didn't tell you yesterday because I didn't want you to think I was doing this out of pity. I'm not. Then why? She looked down at Zara, who was now giggling as a kitten licked her cheek. Because you reminded me what selflessness looks like. You gave up something you cared about for her. And because I liked how you talked to your daughter and the kittens, like they mattered. Yarden rubbed the back of his neck. I'm not sure what to say. Say you'll have lunch with us, she said. There's a chef making something simple, grilled cheese, tomato soup. I swear it's not fancy, he laughed, finally relaxing. All right, but only if Zara gets seconds. She can have thirds. That afternoon turned into evening. Zara napped on the couch with 2 kittens curled beside her. Yarden leaned on the glass railing, watching the city glow. Penelope handed him a glass of wine, their fingers brushing. I haven't had a day like this in years, she said quietly. Same, he said. Then, after a beat, I don't usually accept help. I'm not used to people like you. People like me. People who don't look down on me, she met his eyes. I don't look down on you, Yarden, I look at you. He looked back at her, something shifting behind his eyes. I don't know what this is, he said, voice low. But I haven't felt this drawn to someone in a long time. Penelope's breath caught, but she didn't look away. Then let's find out what it is. The next day he brought over the last kitten and stayed for dinner. By the end of the week, he was coming by every evening. And every time he left, it got harder. Harder to say goodbye, harder to pretend he wasn't falling. You don't have to keep feeding us, you know. Yarden leaned against the marble counter, watching Penelope pour warm apple cider into 2 ceramic mugs shaped like polar bears. We're getting spoiled. You say that like it's a bad thing, she replied without looking up. Zara's eating better, sleeping better, and your color's coming back. I'd say the spoiling is working. He crossed his arms, the sleeves of his worn jacket bunching at the elbows. You're used to people who don't blink at a bottle of imported wine or a silk throw blanket. I still hesitate before buying extra napkins. Then don't think of this as charity, she said, sliding a mug toward him. Think of it as a mutual exchange. You bring warmth into this place. And Zara makes my day every time she runs through that door. He glanced toward the living room, where Zara sat cross-legged on the floor constructing a palace out of magnetic building tiles. One of the kittens was nestled inside a turret. She's getting attached, he said quietly. So am I. Yarden looked at her, brows drawing together. Penelope, this world of yours, it's not mine. We don't belong here. She stepped around the counter, mug in hand. Do you think belonging is something you're handed or something you choose? He didn't answer. She leaned against the table's edge and studied him. What do you do, Yarden, for work? Construction. Mostly odd jobs lately. I used to have steady work, but the company downsized. Been trying to get on a new crew. Have you tried applying through any of the city's labor brokers? Yeah. Problem is, I've got Zara. I can't take jobs that start before dawn or end past dark. No childcare, no relatives nearby. It's just us. Penelope placed her mug down. I might know someone, a friend who runs a residential design firm. They're always looking for solid hands-on workers, and they're flexible with hours. I could make a call. He shook his head. You don't have to, I know I don't, she interrupted gently, but I want to. Yarden's jaw worked slightly. You really don't know how to take your foot off the gas, do you? I didn't get where I am by coasting, she said. But I also didn't get here alone. Someone once opened a door for me. I'm just returning the favor. Zara called from the other room, waving a pink plastic wand. Dad, come see. The kittens are princesses now, he chuckled under his breath. Excuse me, I've been summoned. She watched him cross the room, stooping to join his daughter on the rug. He wore fatigue like a second skin, but somehow he never looked defeated, just weathered. Like someone who'd kept walking through too many storms. Later that evening, as the sky turned indigo and the city lights blinked alive, Penelope stepped onto the rooftop garden. The air carried the faint scent of jasmine and the distant hum of traffic far below. Yarden joined her, his coat draped over one shoulder, Zara already asleep in the guest room. Your place has a view like a postcard. I never notice it unless someone else points it out. He leaned on the railing, silent for a moment. I used to think people with money were untouchable. Like once you crossed a certain income bracket, you stopped having real problems. You'd be surprised how expensive mistakes can be, she replied, voice quiet. Just because someone wears confidence like armor doesn't mean they're not bleeding underneath. He turned to her. What about you? You always this open with strangers who take home your kittens. You're not a stranger anymore. He didn't look away. You don't date much, do you? She blinked. What makes you say that? You listen like someone who hasn't had anyone to talk to in a while. There was no flirtation in his tone, just truth. She exhaled slowly. You'd be right. It's hard to know if someone wants me or the version of me they see in the papers. Maybe they're looking at the numbers instead of the woman. She tilted her head. And what do you see? He paused, eyes steady. Someone who keeps offering more than she takes. Someone who needs someone to lean on just as much as she wants to be leaned on. A beat passed between them, thick and electric, then he cleared his throat. I should probably head out. Don't want Zara waking up in a stranger's bed. She has her own room here now. Yarden froze. You gave her a room. I didn't say it to pressure you, she said quickly. It's just, She's here so often. I wanted her to have a space that felt like hers. He nodded slowly. You don't do anything halfway, do you? She touched the edge of the railing. Not when it matters. Something shifted in his expression. This is starting to matter. Penelope took a step closer. I know. The city pulsed beneath them, a heartbeat of glass and steel, but between them the silence spoke louder. I don't want to complicate your life, he said, voice thick. You've got everything figured out. I'm still trying to keep my lights on. My life's been complicated for years, she replied. This, you, Zara, none of it feels like a complication. It feels like a beginning. He looked at her, searching for something in her face. Then, with a quiet nod, he said, Okay, I'll let it be a beginning. The night air curled around them like a promise neither had known they needed. Penelope stood in front of the mirror, adjusting a necklace she hadn't worn in years, a delicate chain with a tiny, raw sapphire pendant. It wasn't her usual style for corporate events, but tonight wasn't about appearances. It was about something real. The charity gala was her own company's annual fundraiser, and the board expected perfection. She'd hosted it every year since taking over Sarah's tech, but this time was different. This time, she'd invited someone who didn't wear tuxedos or trade stock tips over champagne. She turned as the elevator opened onto the penthouse, revealing Yarden in a navy shirt and a dark blazer that clearly didn't come off any high-end rack. But he looked good. Natural. Solid. And slightly uncomfortable, he stepped in, his eyes scanning the room before finding her. I feel like I should have brought a flashcard just to remember how to act. You look great, she said, crossing the room, and you don't need to memorize anything. Just be yourself. He glanced down, brushing his fingers over his sleeve. I borrowed this from a neighbor. I think it's seen more weddings than I have. Penelope smiled. I like it. It's honest. Zara okay upstairs? Yes. The sitter came early, and she was already drawing by the time I left her. She's excited about the pancakes they're making later. He nodded, relaxing just slightly. Good. She asked me if ballrooms have slides. They should, Penelope said, reaching for her clutch. Maybe next year I'll add one. They rode down in the private elevator in silence. Not awkward, just full of unspoken thoughts. When the doors opened, the atmosphere changed from quiet ease to polished spectacle. Strings played softly over the murmur of high society, and a crystal chandelier glowed like 1,000 suns above them. Yarden exhaled slowly as they stepped into the crowd. You weren't kidding. This is like walking into a dream. She touched his arm lightly. Just breathe. You're not here to impress anyone. A woman in a fitted burgundy gown approached with a practiced smile. Penelope, the mayor is asking for you near the stage. Penelope turned to Yarden. Will you be all right for a few minutes? I'll find a corner and stay out of the way. She leaned in. Don't you dare. They separated, and Yarden wandered toward the far end of the ballroom where a waiter offered him a flute of something he couldn't pronounce. He took it anyway, sipping slowly as he tried to blend in. It didn't work. People watched him, their smiles tight, their eyes curious. A man in a silver pocket square stopped beside him. Friend of Penelope's, Yarden nodded. Yeah, we met recently. She's a good woman, sharp, unrelenting, but fair. You in tech? No, Yarden said. Construction. The man blinked. Ah, refreshing. It wasn't meant kindly. Yarden gave a short nod and shifted his weight. He didn't need to explain himself. He didn't owe anyone in that room a single thing. Penelope returned a few minutes later, her expression unreadable. Everything okay. Depends on whether this guy's jacket survives the night. She laughed softly, threading her arm through his. Come with me. She walked him past the crowd to a side terrace where the music faded and the air was sharp with the scent of pine. Tiny lights were woven through the hedges, and a table had been set with 2 glasses and an unopened bottle of wine. I asked them to hold this for us, she said, sitting down. You planned this. I wanted one part of the night to be quiet. Just us? Yarden sat across from her, looking out over the skyline. You don't stop surprising me. I don't want to. I want you to know me as I really am, not just the woman in the boardroom or the one who lives in glass towers. He studied her. Then tell me something you've never told anyone here, she hesitated. I almost quit everything 3 years ago. I was tired, burned out. I felt like I was building a kingdom I didn't want to rule. What stopped you, my brother? He reminded me why I started. He said, you don't have to change the whole world, Pen, just one corner of it. Yarden leaned back in his chair. You've changed more than a corner. Have I changed yours? He didn't look away. Yes. They sat in silence again, but it was heavier now, a weight of things unsaid. Yarden finally spoke. I haven't let myself get close to anyone since Zara's mom. I told myself I couldn't risk it, that it'd just complicate her life, and mine. I'm not asking you to risk anything you're not ready for. That's the thing, he said. I think I am ready. But I don't know how to do this. I don't speak your language. I don't know your rules. There are no rules here, she said, just feelings and honesty. He stared at her for a long moment, then reached across the table. Then here's my truth I think about you when I'm not here. I watch Zara light up when we leave your place, and I feel something I thought I lost a long time ago. Hope. She laced her fingers with his. Then let's not waste it. As they stood and rejoined the gala, neither of them noticed the way eyes followed them, not with judgment this time, but with something closer to curiosity. Something like wonder. Later that night, when they returned to the penthouse, and Zara ran into Yarden's arms, sleepy but smiling, Penelope watched from the doorway. She didn't see a man out of place anymore. She saw the beginning of her real life. One that wasn't planned on a whiteboard or forecasted in a quarterly report. One built on something far stronger than power. Love. Rain misted the windows, casting faint shadows across the penthouse floor. Penelope stood near the glass, arms folded as she watched the gray sky blur the view of the skyline. She wasn't waiting for anything specific, just listening to the quiet. The kind of quiet that had once swallowed her whole. Now it felt different. It felt like the calm before something permanent. She heard the elevator chime before the doors opened. Yarden stepped in carrying a wrapped shoebox with a rubber band around it. His coat was damp at the shoulders, and his hair clung slightly to his forehead, but he looked calm. Centered. Zara's with the sitter, he said, setting the box down on the kitchen island. She's making paper crowns and refused to come until she finished decorating the last one. Penelope smiled, walking over. That sounds urgent. She said it was for you. With extra sparkles. He lifted the lid from the box, revealing a pair of scuffed work boots. The laces were frayed, and the soles looked like they'd been worn through concrete and time. I got offered a full crew position today, he said, voice steady. They want me to lead a small team starting next week. Better pay, benefits, even a schedule that lets me pick Zara up from school. She looked from the boots to his face, her eyes searching. You said yes, I did. He took a breath. And I turned down a second offer from a guy who wanted to throw money at me because I knew you. Said I could name my price if I got him a meeting with you. Her brow lifted. And you didn't take it. I'm not selling your name or your time. That's not why I'm in this. Penelope stepped closer. Why are you? Yarden's voice dropped. Because you gave me space without asking for anything back. Because every time I bring Zara here, she glows like she belongs. And because I'm in love with you. The words didn't hang, they landed. She reached for his hand. Then we're on the same page. He looked down at her fingers wrapped around his. I didn't think I'd ever be allowed to feel this way again. After Zara's mom left, I told myself love wasn't the kind of thing that came twice. You didn't expect it to come through kittens and grilled cheese. He gave a soft laugh. No, Penelope drew in a breath, her tone shifting. The board called an emergency vote yesterday. They want to move the company's headquarters to Singapore. They're pushing for a full relocation within the year. Yarden's face tightened. Are you going? I told them no. I resigned as CEO this morning. His brows shot up. You what? I've been building things for other people my entire life. For the first time, I want to build something that's mine, something real. He stepped forward, his voice low. You did that already. You built this, us, and I'm not letting it go. She held out a folded piece of paper. He hesitated before taking it, unfolding it slowly. It was a drawing, crude crayon lines and glitter glue. A stick figure with wild curls holding hands with two taller ones, all standing in front of what appeared to be a sunroom filled with cats. Zara made it last night, Penelope said. She said it was our family. He stared at the page, unmoving. I know we haven't defined anything, she continued, her voice soft. And I'm not asking for instant answers, but I've never been clearer about what I want. Yarden looked up, his eyes darker now. And what's that, you, Zara? Nights that end in laughter, mornings where we trip over kittens. A home that doesn't feel like a castle, but a place we all fit inside. I want a life that doesn't scare me to lose because it means everything. His jaw worked, but he said nothing. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box, not velvet, not flashy, just simple wood. I was going to wait, he said. I had this whole speech planned, something about timing and how unconventional this all is, but I don't want to wait anymore. She stared at the box, heart thundering. He opened it to reveal a ring made of white gold with a small diamond flanked by 2 tiny sapphires. Modest, beautiful, real, I love you, he said. And I want to build this life with you for real. I want to wake up next to you. I want Zara to know what it's like to have stability. And I want you to know what it's like to be loved without conditions. Marry me. Penelope didn't speak. She stepped forward and kissed him, gently, reverently, with the kind of certainty she'd once believed was impossible. When they pulled apart, she whispered, yes. They stood there as the rain lightened and the sky began to clear, the city below softening into gold. 3 months later, the garden terrace was transformed. No gala, no press. Just a warm spring breeze, a string quartet, and a handful of people who mattered. Zara walked Penelope down the aisle, carrying a velvet pillow with the rings tied in a bow. She wore a crown made of paper and sparkles, just as she'd insisted. Yarden waited at the end, eyes never leaving Penelope's. They exchanged vows under a trellis of jasmine and ivy. Vows that spoke of second chances, of unexpected beginnings, of building something lasting out of broken pieces. Afterward, they danced barefoot on the rooftop while Zara twirled with the kittens wrapped in ribbon. That night, as the city lights blinked like stars, Penelope lay beside Yarden, her head on his chest, his arm wrapped around her like he had always meant to hold her. No titles. No labels. Just love, exactly as it was meant to be. Yarden adjusted the buttons on his cuff as he stepped out of the town car and onto the gravel path that led to the school auditorium. The spring breeze carried the scent of lilacs, and laughter floated from the open windows ahead. He could already hear Zara's voice weaving through the others, bright, fearless, unmistakably hers. Penelope stepped out beside him, long skirts swaying with each step as she slipped her hand into his. She's going to be unbearable after this, she whispered. She already is, Yarden muttered, straight-faced. Last night she made me rehearse her entire poem while she wore sunglasses and demanded applause between lines. Penelope's laugh caught in her throat as they walked into the auditorium, where rows of parents turned toward the stage. The lights dimmed, and a curtain scrolled back to reveal a sea of eager second graders in paper hats and glittered stars taped to their shirts. Zara stood front and center, her crown of sparkles slightly tilted, her curls bouncing as she waved to them. Then she cleared her throat and began her poem, voice strong, words clear. It was about home, the kind you built, not the kind you were born into, about safety and belonging and how it sometimes came wrapped in unexpected shapes. Yarden felt Penelope's hand tighten around his. Neither of them looked at each other. They didn't need to. They both heard the same message in Zara's words. This was their life now, and she knew it. After the performance, Zara ran straight into their arms, still buzzing. Did I sound brave? You sounded like a queen, Penelope said, crouching to kiss her cheek. Yarden nodded. You owned that stage. Good, Zara said solemnly. Because next year I'm directing the play. Later that evening, they sat on the back patio of their new home, a quiet brick house tucked into a tree-lined street. The backyard had a low stone wall, fairy lights strung between the branches of 2 tall oaks, and a tire swing Yarden had installed himself. Zara danced barefoot in the grass with 2 cats chasing her, their tails flicking like streamers. Penelope poured lemonade into mismatched glasses and passed one to Yarden. She's never going to want to leave this yard. Then it's working, he said, watching Zara twirl until she dropped onto the blanket they'd spread out earlier. This place feels. Finished? We're not finished, Penelope said, settling beside him. We're just getting started. He leaned back on his elbows, the setting sun casting amber across the side of her face. It's strange. If someone had told me last year that I'd be living in a house with a woman like you, watching my daughter chase cats named after Greek goddesses, you'd have laughed them out of the room. No, he said. I'd have walked away before they finished the sentence. Back then, none of this felt possible. Penelope turned to him, serious now. You never told me what you wanted to be before everything changed. He took a breath. An architect. I used to draw buildings in the margins of my notebooks. I loved the idea of creating something that lasted. Something people could walk through and feel safe inside. Why didn't you pursue it? Zara happened. Then her mom left. Everything after that was about survival. Penelope reached down beside the bench and handed him a rolled-up tube. Open it. He pulled the cap off and unfurled the paper. It was a certificate of acceptance part-time enrollment in a design and drafting program at a nearby college. His name was typed clearly at the top. You did this. His voice caught. You did, she said. I just filled in the application you left on the kitchen counter. You'd already finished half of it. He stared at it for a long moment, then looked up at her. You believe in me more than I do. That's how love works, she said softly. He reached for her hand. Then I'll start believing too. They sat in silence until Zara ran up, breathless. Can we have pancakes for dinner? Penelope raised a brow. Again, Zara nodded, eyes wide, with whipped cream and strawberries and chocolate chips. Yarden stood, scooping her up. Only if I get to flip them. Deal, she squealed. Back inside, the kitchen glowed with warmth. Zara perched on a stool while Penelope chopped fruit, and Yarden manned the griddle, flipping pancakes with exaggerated flair. No one cared that flour dusted the floor or that a cat had stolen a strawberry off the counter. After dinner, they curled on the couch, Zara nestled between them, a book open across their laps. The soft hum of the dishwasher was the only sound beside Penelope's voice as she read aloud. Zara drifted to sleep before the last page. Yarden carried her to bed, tucking the covers under her chin and pressing a kiss to her forehead. Back in the living room, Penelope stood by the window, arms crossed as she looked out at the stars. Yarden came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. You know something. What? I don't want to build houses anymore, she turned slightly. No, I want to build a life with you, with her, with all the mess and the flour on the floor and the kittens in the sink. She turned fully now, eyes locked on his. Then let's build it. He kissed her not the way people kiss in stories, but the way they do when everything finally fits, when the storm has passed and only the warmth remains. Outside, a wind stirred the leaves. Inside, love settled into the walls like it had always belonged there. And this time, it wasn't going anywhere.